The Titanic was one of the deadliest disasters in maritime history. But what if we told you that just feet away from shore, another ship sank and took even more lives? Welcome to our channel, and today we'll be telling the story of the forgotten Titanic. On July 24, 1906, the Eastland was filled with passengers who were eager to enjoy an outing on Lake Michigan. On board were people of all ages, from young children to the elderly, as well as many well-to-do businessmen. They had all paid for a trip on the newly refurbished boat and were excited to spend the day swimming and sunbathing on the deck. The Eastland had been refitted with luxurious cabins, spacious promenades, and plenty of room for passengers to relax. There was also a fully stocked bar and restaurant, so that everyone could stay comfortable while they enjoyed the beautiful views. But unfortunately, their day out on the lake would turn into a nightmare when the ship capsized and sank just feet from shore. It all started when the captain decided to change course and head closer to the shore, so that his passengers could get a better view of the fireworks display happening in Chicago. At this point in time, there were about 2,500 passengers on board, almost double its capacity. As the ship moved closer to shore, many people rushed to one side to get a good look at the fireworks. This sudden shift in weight caused the vessel to list dangerously. The captain immediately ordered for the ship to be turned around and headed back out into deeper water, but it was too late. The damage had already been done. As the ship began to list more and more to one side, people panicked and rushed for the lifeboats. Unfortunately, there weren't enough lifeboats for everyone, and those who could get on one were left with only one option: stay on the sinking ship and hope for the best, or jump into the shallow water and try to swim to shore. Some people did manage to swim to safety, but many others were not so lucky. The ship eventually capsized and sank, trapping hundreds of people inside its hull. In total, 844 people lost their lives that day, making it one of the deadliest maritime disasters in U.S. history. The sinking of the Eastland is considered to be one of the worst maritime disasters in the history of the United States. The ship was overcrowded, which made it difficult for passengers to evacuate once the ship began to sink. Additionally, many of the lifeboats were destroyed or damaged during the chaos, which limited the number of people who could be rescued. The disaster also caused significant damage to the city of Chicago and the surrounding areas. Many businesses were destroyed and thousands of people were left without homes. One of the most tragic aspects of the sinking of the Eastland is the way in which the passengers and crew died. Many people were trapped inside the hull of the ship as it sank, while others were unable to swim to safety in the shallow water. Those who did make it to shore were often injured or had to watch helplessly as their loved ones disappeared beneath the waves. The disaster had a profound impact on the local community and the families of those who were lost. Many people struggled to come to terms with the sudden and unexpected loss of their loved ones. The sinking of the Eastland also raised questions about the safety regulations for ships and the preparedness of the local authorities. Some people argued that the ship should not have been allowed to be so overcrowded, and that there should have been more lifeboats available. Others criticized the captain for changing course and heading closer to shore, which may have contributed to the disaster. Now let's take a look at the timeline of this horrific event. In the early morning hours of July 24, 1906, the SS Eastland was loaded with passengers and began to make its way out of the Chicago River and into Lake Michigan. The ship was bound for a popular resort town known as Santa Monica. The plan was for the passengers to spend the day swimming, picnicking, and enjoying the beautiful scenery before returning to the city in the evening. Among the passengers were many well-to-do Chicago businessmen and their families. They had rented the entire boat for the day and were looking forward to a relaxing time on the lake. As the ship sailed out of the river and into the open lake, the passengers began to take in the stunning views of the city skyline. The Eastland was a luxurious boat, and the passengers had plenty of room to spread out and relax. Many of them lounged on the spacious promenade deck, or took a dip in the ship's pool. By mid-morning, the passengers were beginning to get bored with sightseeing, and many of them decided to head back to shore. However, the captain decided to make one last pass by the city, so that his passengers could get a final glimpse of the skyline. This would prove to be a fateful decision. As the ship approached the shore, many passengers rushed to one side of the boat to get a better view. This sudden shift in weight caused the vessel to list dangerously. The captain immediately ordered for the ship to be turned around and headed back out into deeper water, but it was too late. The damage had already been done. As the ship began to list more and more, the passengers panicked and rushed for the lifeboats. Unfortunately, there were not enough lifeboats for everyone, and many of those who tried to evacuate were swept overboard. The ship eventually capsized and sank, trapping hundreds of people inside its hull. The sinking of the Eastland sent shockwaves through the local community and the nation as a whole. The death toll was staggering and the loss of life was felt deeply by all who knew it. In the aftermath of the disaster, there was a call for an investigation to determine how such a tragedy could have occurred. The findings of the inquiry pointed to a number of contributing factors, including the ship's overcrowding, the lack of lifeboats, and the captain's decision to sail so close to shore. The disaster also raised questions about the safety regulations for ships and the preparedness of the local authorities. Some argued that the ship should not have been allowed to carry so many passengers and that there should have been more lifeboats on hand in case of an emergency. Others criticized the captain for sailing so close to shore, which may have contributed to the capsizing of the vessel. In the years since the sinking of the Eastland, there have been many efforts to remember and honor the victims. A memorial was erected at the site of the disaster, and a museum was opened to preserve the history of the tragedy. The sinking of the Eastland remains one of the worst maritime disasters in the history of the United States, and a reminder of the importance of safety regulations and the need for preparedness in the face of potential disaster. The investigation that followed the sinking of the Eastland revealed several key factors that contributed to the tragedy. One of the main causes was the overcrowding of the ship. The Eastland was designed to carry no more than 1,500 passengers, but on the day of the incident, it had nearly double that amount, with estimates ranging from 2,000 to 2,500 people on board. This made it difficult for passengers to evacuate once the ship began to sink and contributed to the high death toll. Another factor was the lack of lifeboats. Although there were some lifeboats available, they were either destroyed during the chaos of the evacuation or simply not enough to rescue everyone who needed help. This left many passengers with no choice but to try to swim to shore, which was extremely dangerous given the cold water temperature and the strong currents in the lake. Additionally, the captain's decision to sail close to shore may have contributed to the capsizing of the vessel. When the ship took on a list and the captain attempted to correct course, the sudden shift in weight distribution caused by the passengers rushing to one side of the boat may have caused it to capsize. In the wake of the disaster, several changes were made to improve maritime safety. The U.S. Congress passed new laws regulating the construction and operation of passenger vessels, as well as the number of lifeboats that must be on hand. The U.S. Coast Guard was also given expanded authority to enforce these regulations and ensure the safety of passengers. These changes were designed to prevent another tragedy like the sinking of the Eastland from occurring. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more historical stories. You can also check out some of our other videos, which are full of amazing historical tales that you won't learn anywhere else. Thanks for watching.